It's wonderful to see you again and our CTA members. Thank you so much for joining today and our guests. I am going to share my screen and we'll get started. Before I do though, I know you're no strangers to this. We'll be working in a couple of tabs because I'd like you to, if you haven't done so already, join Thrively, and we're going to roll up our sleeves and do a little bit of work today. All right, so let's get started. I'll share my screen. Oops, here we go. All right, so this is me. And again, welcome to CTA members and to our guests and all folks in the room. We're so happy to have you here. So we're going to be doing some strategies in the chat. And the first one is an inclusion strategy. And this is just to kind of get us in the room. I know it's been a long day for a lot of you, but what I'd like you to do is engage with me in the strategy called I'm In. And how this works is you're going to share how you're feeling today, and you're going to affirm by saying I'm in. So this might help you, right? You can look at the feelings wheel. You'll see this again today, but say how you're feeling, be very honest, right? If you're feeling happy, great. If you're feeling, happy because you feel proud of something and successful or confident, say it. If you're not feeling so happy today, go ahead and share that too. It's okay. But once we've shared our feelings, we've shared how we're feeling, we affirm that we're here in body, mind, and spirit by saying I'm in. So if you would go ahead and do that, put that in the chat. And
Jane, they're not able to see your screen.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not able to see your screen.
Sharing is paused. Okay.
Oh.
Hold on just a second.
Yeah, your screen is black.
Interesting. Okay, everybody. Bear with me.
There you go. That's it.
All right. Well, okay, so let's go. My apologies.
I just wanted to catch you on that before you went any further. There we go.
Thank you so much. So you saw, this is Thrively. This is your welcome. It's okay, and I'm in. All righty. And now we're looking at the feelings wheel. Thank you so much. All right. So if you would take a look at that, start from the inner circle, and you can elaborate by working your way to the outer circle. And just say how you're feeling and affirm with an I'm in. Place that in the chat. And we'll just take about 28 seconds or so to do that for everybody. Get us here in body, mind, spirit. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. All right. So one more. So last time when we were together, for those of you who were here with me last time, I had asked you to go to Thrively, create an account, and take the strengths assessment yourself. So I hope that you were able to do that. If you haven't had a chance to do that, please do so between now and the next time we meet, because one, I know it's going to be really uplifting when you see all the incredible qualities that you bring to your teaching and learning environment. And it'll also show you what your students will experience when they take the assessment. That's so important. So if you haven't done it, I have the Thrively strengths here for you. If you have, I want you to think about your go-to strength. And I want you to think about that strength, and especially when there are times of challenge, how does that strength help you? So what is your go-to strength in times of challenge, and how does it help you? And for this one, Anita, I'll just ask you to read some of what you're seeing in the chat.
Okay, I have Susie Forrester with the hand up. I don't know if she has a raised hand or if that's just, oh, there you go. No, guess it wasn't. Okay. Compassion.
Just think about that, how compassion, or whatever your go-to strength is, how does it help you in times of challenge? And this will be very important for your English language learners, for anybody, but certainly for them, as they have so much to contend with as they're acquiring the language, acquiring academic language,
Jane, could you go
interpersonal.
through the directions again? We had
Sure.
a couple of people just join us.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Yes, for those of you who've taken the Thrively Strengths Assessment, you will have discovered that your top 5 of 23 strengths kind of emerged to the surface. So if you've taken that, go ahead and state what one of your top strengths is. But what I'd like you to do, if you haven't done that, their strengths are here on the screen, and you can look at the one that you believe to be your go-to strength that you use in times of challenge. And how does it help you? So for instance, one of my top strengths is flexibility. So I think my flexibility helps me in times of challenge to think, okay, there's always another way. There's a way around this, right? That I can bend. I don't have to be rigid in how I'm thinking about or pursuing something. So for each of you, you each have different strengths and different combinations of strengths. What's your go-to? And for the person who said that compassion is a top strength, I imagine that it helps you in many ways, especially in challenging times.
Coordinating, resilience. Got another one for resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Flexibility and compassion. Mm-hmm. Creative thinking.
Nice. So you'll notice as we're thinking about English language learners, we're not saying vocabulary, right? We're not saying anything that has to do with academic learning, although every single strength here will help English language learners with academic learning, of course, the social and emotional as well. So this is so key to Thrively, is understanding our strengths and utilizing those as we're engaging socially with our peers, as we're increasing our self-awareness, as we're advocating for ourselves, and as English language learners, as we're struggling to acquire English and excel in academics. All right, thank you so much, everyone. So if you haven't had that opportunity to take the strengths assessment, I will definitely make an appeal to you to do it sometime very soon. All right, so we're going to talk today about language acquisition and meaningful peer collaboration. So, I want you to think about, how we're going to create the conditions for meaningful peer collaboration and how that supports language development and increases that access to rigorous content for our students who are acquiring English. So this is, we're going to really roll up our sleeves today and work on a project in Thrively. And what you're going to do today is going to lay the foundation for part 2. So in part 1, we're going to understand projects and their relationship to language acquisition, but we're also going to learn how to use Thrively projects ourselves. And between now and the next time we meet on January 14th, I would like for you each to have completed a project in Thrively. And at that time on the 14th, we'll have fellow CTA members joining us in a panel, and they have created an equity project. And I know you're going to be so thrilled to see that, but you'll need to do your own first so that you've got great questions to ask on the 14th. So this is why we're here today. And while we're in this conversation, of course, for those of you who like to tweet, and I know a lot of our CTA members do, we're at Thrively. We're going to be talking about social emotional learning. Oh, PBL should be in there too. But any hashtag of your choice, just contribute to the conversation amongst your CTA members and of course across the nation with other Thrively partners. All right, so before we begin, do make sure that you have info@thrively.com in your contacts, so anything that we send you doesn't end up in your spam. And anytime you need support from us, outgoing emails can go to support@Thrively, and we are here for you 24/7 with whatever you need. All right, and I already said that. We're going to log in. All right, so if you go to thrively.com, if you haven't done so already, you can go straight to login, and that will take you to the member sign-in where you can link your Google account, your Gmail account to Thrively. So go ahead and allow Google to link to Thrively. And of course, you'll be using your school email. So use your professional email because you're going to want to add students, of course, and so you'll want that all to be consistent. So if you haven't done that already, please do so. If you're having any difficulties with that, or questions, put that in the chat and we'll get to that. But for now, create your account. All right, let's get started. Here are our outcomes for today. So today you're going to discover how Thrively can help you build a foundation of trust among students. And there is nothing more important. And there are now decades of research that says that not just organic, but relational trust is key for school transformation, key to successful outcomes for educators, right? And for students. And relational trust is different than organic. Organic is that trust that we all feel like, hey, you're here, I'm here, we trust each other, and that can be broken so easily. Relational trust is the kind that is based on evidence. So the evidence that you care about me, the evidence that you know me, right? The evidence that I feel I belong. So we're going to talk about that today. So we're going to, I'm going to show you strategies to do that, and also how Thrively just will make this so easy for you. I'm super excited for you to see it. And we're going to talk, one of the outcomes is to increase equity of voice. You notice that I started today with an inclusion strategy called I'm In. That gets all voices on the table. Every single person gets an opportunity to say how they're feeling. And so important, right, for each of us, but especially, we're talking today about English learners. And so important for them that they have opportunities to share that with their peers and with their educators. So we'll come back to this concept of equity of voice throughout this webinar today. And then we're also going to look at how to engage students in meaningful collaboration, the kind that is rigorous, that's challenging, that's authentic, that requires collaboration and critical thinking. So we can do that, and we can, as we engage students in this collaboration, they're improving their interpersonal communication and their academic language as well. So we will delve into that in just a bit. So I know many of you already know us, but I have to re-emphasize this every time because it just gives me goosebumps when I think of all the people in the room and how we're all in this together. We're partners in next generation education, where we hold these 5 key premises. One, that every student should be known. They should have an opportunity, right, to build their passion and discover their purpose, to develop the kinds of skills that are going to carry them through their entire lives, and to engage in authentic learning, which is what we're going to focus on today. And then ultimately, we want to make sure that our students, are empowered. We have fully agentive students who can stand on their own feet, who have voice and agency. So I know you have to see this one every time, but I get excited about it because it takes every single one of us in this webinar today and everybody we know and all of our families and communities to make this happen. So this is who we are. And when you look at the top one, know your students, look to the right where it says student outcome, right? For our English learners, imagine how empowering it is to say, hey, I have talents, right? I belong here. I'm respected and valued, and I have a contribution to make. So today I'm going to show you some ways to use Thrively to ensure that we lay that foundation, and then we allow students to really know from their peers, right, from their educators, and most importantly in themselves, that they are that they have a contribution and they belong. All right, so for those of us who are new to Thrively, I want to have my colleague Patrick take us on a brief overview. It'll only take a couple of minutes. If you've seen it before, I can tell you this. Every time I see it, I'm like, yes, that's right. It just reinforces all of the things that Thrively does. So we're not going to look at every single one of these today, but throughout the course of this series, you will definitely experience every aspect of Thrively. So here's Patrick. Let's see what he has to say.
Welcome to Thrively. My name is Patrick, Thrively's head of classroom engagement. Thank you for signing up and joining the strengths-based learning movement. You're ready to unlock the genius in every student and launch your own strengths-driven classroom. In the next few minutes, we'll show you how to get started in 3 easy steps. First, take the Thrively Strengths Assessment yourself and find out how awesome you are. Next, add your students. Your district may have already set up your rosters. If not, you can use the invite code on your homepage to enroll students in your class. Now, launch your students on their Thrively journey by engaging them in a short 35-minute multimedia assessment that reveals their top 5 strengths. Now that you and your students are on board, let's take a quick look at all of the ways Thrively can support your work. This is where you'll find all of your Thrively resources right here in the teacher toolbar. Here, you can set goals for students, assign playlists and lessons, support students in career exploration, ignite student curiosity with Sparks, engage students in authentic project-based learning, fuel your students' passions through activities in their local community, develop reflective learners through journals, and reward your students' accomplishments with custom digital badges. Any teacher can use Thrively to create a strengths-driven classroom. Thrively is a valued resource for teachers looking for a specific program implementation solution. For instance, teachers use Thrively's comprehensive SEL content for advisory and homeroom. Gate teachers use Thrively resources to stimulate curiosity. Special education teachers use Thrively to replace a deficit model with a strengths-based approach. And CTE teachers appreciate the thousands of Thrively career exposure and exploration resources. Every young person has a wealth of internal resources just waiting to be leveraged and strengthened. Imagine the possibilities when every student is engaged and takes responsibility for their own learning. Join the 100,000 educators who are part of Thrively's strengths-based learning movement. Your students are waiting. Are you ready? Let's get started.
All right, so all of those things today, we'll talk about the strengths assessment a little bit, but we're definitely taking a deep dive into projects. All right, so peer collaboration. I would like to suggest that all excellent peer collaboration starts with kindness. There are incredible resources on empathy in Thrively that you can take a look at. So we're going to take a brief look at one of them. And when you have a moment to go into this course, right, that is using kindness to enrich your life and the lives of others, you're going to see several lessons in this course. And the one that I would like you to look at, we won't spend time looking at it today, but I want to draw your attention to it because it's just so uplifting. You remember Kid President, but this is such a powerful way to think about our students and as he says, as Kid President says, let's get a little awkward with it, right? It can be challenging sometimes, to make new friends. So he kind of gives us license to be awkward, and we debunk he does anyway, these two do, a lot of misunderstandings about what our differences mean. So I encourage you to look at this one when you have that opportunity. But you'll see in Thrively, there are so many resources here in our Thrively lessons, right? If you go to lessons and you go to empathy, you're going to see several wonderful lessons. I love starting with this one, using kindness to enrich your lives. Check it out. And because good collaboration is going to depend on having empathy for people who may have some differences, right? So very much encourage you to check that one out. All right, so let's go back to our presentation. So start with kindness. That's kind of step one in laying a foundation for respectful and also efficient. The more collaboration, the more we respect one another, the more efficient we're going to be in our collaboration, right? And the more trusting, of course, as well. So we talked today, we did the I'm in strategy, and I asked you to look at the feelings wheel. And there's a feelings wheel in here in English and one in Spanish. And I would encourage each day of peer collaboration to begin with I'm in. And I'll tell you, even if your students balk a little, like, do we have to do I'm in again? They actually really love it, because as you're incredibly well aware, sometimes our students will come to school having, had some challenges in their homes or communities. And we want to not take that personally as other members of the group, right? We want everybody to know, hey, this isn't about you. This is about this person with the feelings. Let's honor everyone's feelings. And also, I don't know how many languages are spoken in your particular school. And this is just one in Spanish. You can probably find it in other languages. But I know in some schools, I know one in particular in Los Angeles, 48 home languages are spoken. So how wonderful to have the opportunity to share those languages with one another, right, in a heterogeneous group. So I do encourage you all to have each group start with that strategy. All right. Now, the next step to meaningful peer collaboration to support language acquisition, that really lowers all that affective filter and creates a space and place of trust, is setting up group norms, right? So now we have something to refer to, that third party that we've all created together, that establishes those. And for whatever number of languages you have, right, you keep this very simple, right? You keep the conversations rich, but keep the norms really simple. And we're going to take a look at this Edutopia video to help us think through this. So let's take a look now, but you could translate this into multiple languages as we, keep this to, 2 or maybe 3 words at a time. So let's take a quick look at this video.
Before we get started, I really want to go over the social contract that we created in the beginning of the year.
Because we do social contracts, students feel a sense of empowerment. They work collaboratively and monitor their own interactions. Students develop positive relationships with the teacher and their peers alike.
We were being polite with each other.
At Haynes Elementary School, we think it's very important that students have ownership of their learning. We have students in every grade level doing social contracts. It creates a community in the classroom, and it also fosters a different type of learning for our students because it came from them.
So social contracts are a great way for teachers and students to come to an agreement, pretty much a baseline for behavior. What they see up on that wall, it gives them the ownership and the accountability for themselves and for others.
The contract has helped us to communicate better. It really does help you think about what you're going to say and how the other person will react to it.
It gives everybody a chance to speak up about what they want to do instead of just having the teacher write down a social contract and nobody agrees to it.
Today, we get to do one of my very special things. You get to help me determine how we're going to interact in our classroom. Question number 1. So the social contract is built from the responses of 4 essential questions. How do you want to be treated by me? How do you want to be treated by each other? How do you think I want to be treated by you? And how do you want to handle violations of the contract? Students answer those questions independently, and then we share out.
I want you to treat us respectfully so we could have a great time together and nobody will be upset during class.
As we're sharing, we just start to make a list of important words. How do you think I want to be treated by you?
You wouldn't want us to be yelling around or playing around. I think you would also want us to be honest because if we be honest, we can find easier solutions so things will go more smoothly.
How will we handle violations of the contract? What if it's one of your classmates? And what if I'm teaching? What should you do that doesn't cause a disturbance? So students agree to use the thumb sideways as a cue to say, check yourself and check the contract. After the contract is generated, students are encouraged to sign it. I'm gonna go first. I think that this is a good idea. I am agreeing to abide by this contract.
The social contract is posted up in the front of the room and it's being referred to on a regular basis. The ownership helps to facilitate discussions because they know the norms. So let's really make sure that we are following through and we're being respectful, polite, listening, giving others the opportunity to speak.
She asked us, how can we use our social contract in our discussion of the Little Rock Nine?
Jim Crow laws are like preventing them to do anything that they wanted to do.
One of the things the students put up there was having empathy. That is going to be an important component to how they interact with each other.
When they was checking her ID, they definitely felt some type of way, knowing
like racism against them, even though they're guarding them.
When we came to the reflective portion of it, we looked right back at the contract.
Everybody listened to people presenting and everybody had a chance to talk.
At the end of the day in our class, students use a simple 3-2-1 rating. 3, we nailed it. We followed everything in the contract. 2, there may have been a distraction or two. 1, we had major issues.
I picked 3 because we worked together as a team. When Vicky was stuck at her desk, Nevin decided to help her. Ever since we made the social contract, our class has been going by faster because we get along so much.
The social contract allows me to maximize instructional time. Students know that it's a part of their responsibility to take care of themselves and others.
Because we have social contracts in our classroom, we can speak our mind and respect and value what other people say.
It always reminds me every day. I signed for it, I agreed with it, so I have to commit.
All right, thank you for watching that with me. I love to, I'm gonna put my headphones in. Like, I'm reminded of this. You heard a few of our outcomes reiterated here today. One is equity of voice. So you can see that every student had that opportunity to contribute. So those, and then the teacher, of course, is rephrasing, and then everyone gets to sign it, right? So our English learners are participating in this. They're part of it. Everybody else knows they're part of it. So it's so critical. And I'll show you where you can put these social contracts or group norms in the Thrively project. And it might be really excellent to have groups develop these each time. Once you've found an efficient, speedy way to get this done, maybe you've established group norms or a social contract for the class, and then maybe they are either re-emphasizing those within their peer group, or they're focusing on 1 or 2 in particular that they're going to work on in the project. So you'll find the best ways to utilize those within the context of a small group. But let's go ahead and move on from here. So now we know we have started with an inclusion strategy called I'm In. We know how everybody's feeling. We give an opportunity for that to surface. We then start with kindness by understanding our differences and how those differences actually make us stronger. Now we've set up group norms for our classroom, and perhaps we've picked a few of the group norms for our project that we're really going to focus on within our group, or maybe we're doing all of them each time and re-emphasizing those for every single peer interaction. All right, so because we're Thrively and because we always start with strengths, we want to make sure that we're honoring student identity when we're establishing those norms, right? It doesn't matter what language background you have, right? We have these strengths in common. There are 23. We all have 5 that surface to the top. So let's make sure that in our group norms that we are saying that we're honoring the identity. And by identity, we mean in this context, if you were here last time, you heard Karen Pittman talk about identity is actually individual student strength. So how do we make sure that we're honoring that as well and placing that in our norms? All right. So for those of you who are just getting started, I want to just show you what your students see when they take the strengths assessment. So this assessment right now is available in 2 languages, English and in Spanish. And I'll show you how students take that assessment in Spanish and what the assessments look like as well for your families who speak Spanish in the home. All right, so we'll take just a quick glance so you know what the student experience is. And so let's take a look for just a moment here. Oops, yeah. All right. All right, we're going to pop out of here for just a second and take a look at what this experience is like for your learners. So we put in a birth date, give me a year, I don't know. And they can select not specified as gender or boy and girl, whatever they are interested in. And we're going to skip inviting parents for now. But what I want to show you here is that, okay, hold on. All right. Okay, great. So Cody's ready. Now you've got English language learners, right? So that's fine. In fact, I mean, that's great. Thrively is perfect for that. And, you know, if they are still, you know, they're not familiar necessarily with all of these terms in English, right? What looks interesting? What looks like fun, right? Like that looks like fun to me. I like beakers. And so I'm going to go next, taking a deeper dive. I think I like breakdancing, maybe not ballroom. And now computers are always cool and I like to be out in the open. I think I want to be a DJ and an astronaut. Boom, I'm finished, right? I'm ready to go. I'd start my strengths assessment, start it. I'm going to pick Spanish. Now, in this case, right, we only have English and Spanish. Those are our choices. But let me show you what the Spanish sounds like. So I need to, but every single question and response is there's an audio version to both in English and in Spanish. So let's take a quick listen.
Soy una persona bastante tranquila y cuando los planes cambian, en realidad no tengo ningún problema. Es verdad, depende de la situación, se me dificulta muchísimo cuando hay cambio de planes.
Okay, so you see
Jane, we cannot see what you're doing.
Oh, you can't see them?
No.
Oh, the screen because I'm on an incognito window. Oh, thank you. All right, folks. So you just missed the entire that entire piece. So I will send that to you in a recording. So what I showed you is how our students take the strengths assessment in Spanish. And I also was showing you how they select different career aspirations. And you weren't seeing that, but you did hear the audio version of the questions in Spanish. So I will make sure that that gets popped into the video when it's sent out to you.
Can you possibly, Jane, just maybe go back? I think that's a really important piece. Can you go back and just kind of, review that so we see it this time?
Yes, it is a really important piece. So give me just a second.
Because I think I think they'd probably really appreciate that rather than us trying to pop it back in later.
I do too. I'm just going to need to log out here. So just give me a second.
No problem.
Log out of Gene. You know what? While I'm in Gene, we will definitely go back to that. So, and it is critical. So hang in there with me, folks. But I do want to show you before we do that, what we're able to see, what the families are able to see once that assessment is taken. So as we go into our roster, and if you were here last week, you'll remember that the rosters are beautiful. They tell us what the student is aspiring to be. I can flip over this card and I can see their strengths, interest, and aspirations. And hold on just a moment. I can their strengths, interest, and aspirations. And when I flip this card, but I can also go to actions here. And in actions, I can go to print strength certificate, select Spanish, and let's imagine that Abigail's family speaks Spanish. They're going to see her assessment here and all of the output for the assessment in Spanish. And it's just such an exciting thing for families to understand and know that your child comes to the learning environment with these strengths already. So how can we as a team of caring adults support your child with you, with us, everyone in the learning community to leverage and strengthen those, to leverage those strengths. All right. So give me a moment, everyone, while I am in, all right. Well, so everybody give me like a couple of seconds because I need to pull this up into this new other screen. All right. I'm going to stop sharing for just a, well. Okay, Anita, are you seeing my screen?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. All righty. Okay, so here we go. Thank you for the suggestion. And everyone, let's take a look at the Thrively Strengths Assessment in Spanish. So you missed the part where I was selecting aspirations and interests, but I can show you what that looks like with another child. But I wanted to have you experience what the assessment sounds like and looks like in Spanish.
Soy una persona bastante tranquila y cuando los planes cambian, en realidad no tengo ningún problema. ¿Es verdad? Depende de la situación. Se me dificulta muchísimo cuando hay cambio de planes.
I'm going to pick this one. It depends. And go to the next one.
Puedo poner las necesidades y deseos de otras personas antes que los míos. La mayoría del tiempo depende de la situación y de quién se trata. Si tengo que ser sincera conmigo misma, para mí es difícil hacer eso.
Okay, so we are going to complete this later. So it's so important for you to note that students can start and stop at any time. So when you take this assessment yourself, either in English or Spanish, you are go ahead and stop and start so you know what that experience is like. Some of your learners will be so excited about it that they'll want to take it in one sitting. Others will need more time. But you'll also see for every single learner, whether they're taking it in English or in Spanish, there's the audio version. They're also reinforcing their academic language skills as well. So I think that's an important thing for us to think about as we're administering the assessment. So do please take it yourselves. All right, and now I need to log out of Cody and log back into the teacher so you can get that experience again. So remember that now if I wanted to see my students' strengths assessment, I go to my class. I can see each child's aspirations. I can select that profile and I can see the strengths, aspirations, and interests of every student. And many of you have seen this before, but it's just exciting to see it every time because I can look in the aggregate and I can see who the students are. I know we had resilience in the room today. Who are my resilient students? And so now, we have now 25 additional people in our classroom to help us understand what it means to be resilient. And remember that you can scroll over each one of these strength areas, and there's a corresponding lesson for each one. And if you've got the time to do this, really to engage your students in these lessons, maybe one a day, then they're going to understand why it's so important to have all of the strengths in the room. That is the fabric of our community. No matter what language you speak, you are coming to the collaboration table with strengths in hand, ready to support and help the group. And super, super critical to have that conversation with students. All right, let's come back here. And all right, so we talked about the strengths assessment in Spanish or in English, and now we are going to move right into project-based learning. Now, when you're looking at this video, I want you to think about this. We're talking about these 21st century skills. Regardless of the home language that you speak, you have these skills and they can all be developed and refined. So we're going to think about this, the relationship between project-based learning, the conditions for project-based learning, and English language acquisition. So for your own perspective in your own classrooms, think about how project-based learning, maybe jot a few notes down, can support the development of interpersonal communications as well as CALPS. All right. Take a few minutes to take a look at this video about PBL, and then we're going to get started making our own.
You remember what it was like in school. It was boring. You sat in class, memorized as much as you could, and tried to pass a test at the end. But is that good enough? These days, school can be more interesting and effective by focusing students on work that matters. This is project-based learning explained. Most adults live in a world of projects. Whether it's a job assignment, home improvement, or planning a wedding, we need to actively solve problems. But unfortunately, schoolwork looks more like this than this. Let's take a look at this project-based world. Meet Claire. She was recently presented with a challenge. Her company, Super Suds, makes soap, and it was up to her to find the most earth-friendly way to produce it in the future. Her boss gave her a budget and a few requirements, and it was up to her to come up with a solution. She organized and managed a team who researched the options and created materials summarizing the issues. Claire's team asked for feedback and presented their findings to the boss. Claire came out of the project looking like a rock star, and she learned a lot about green products. If you look closely, Claire's success involved critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, things that aren't often taught in traditional classrooms. The world needs more Claires, so how do we get them? The answer is project-based learning, or PBL. By focusing students on a project, teachers put them on a path that deepens their knowledge and builds skills they'll need in the future. Here's what I mean. Mr. Simmons has always been a good science teacher, and his students do well on Friday's tests. Unfortunately, what they learned was gone by Saturday morning. That wasn't good enough for him. Soon he learned about project-based learning and decided to give it a shot. Mr. Simmons got the idea for his first project on microorganisms when nearly half of his students were suddenly absent with the flu. He asked his students why they thought so many of their classmates got sick at the same time. That lively discussion produced a lot of good questions and a list of things the kids wanted to know. Mr. Simmons then announced their project was to help elementary school kids understand, how can we not get sick? After dividing the class into teams, he got them started on the project. It was up to the students to ask questions, research, collaborate, give each other feedback, and figure out the best ways to make their points clear to children. One team chose to make an educational video on the connection between hand washing and avoiding the flu. Another chose to create posters to show how viruses spread. The project teams showed off their final work to an enthusiastic audience of parents and their children at a nearby elementary school. Sitting in the front row was our good friend and local rock star Claire, who saw a bit of herself in the students. It was clear that the project was a success for the students, the audience, and Mr. Simmons. His students practiced critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. The project wasn't about memorization, but learning in depth about viruses and how to prevent spreading disease, a lesson they will never forget. At the end of the presentation, Claire introduced herself to the students and told them that they were rock stars and that the world needs more people who can think like them. To learn more about project-based learning, go to BIE.org.
Okay, BIE.org. So you can see that there's of course, many of you use project-based learning in your classes already and have probably seen a lot of success with your students who are acquiring English. So if we think about the amount, it's that shift from students being consumers of content, which has to be so perplexing as you're acquiring, so perplexing as you're acquiring English to just have so much language thrown at you, to being producers of content. So a move from consumers of content to producers, right, of college and knowledge. So let's take a look at how we do this in Thrively. So we first want to think about on the back end, because this is your project between now and the 14th, is to come up with your own project. So we want to make sure that everybody is treated respectfully as people with a high level of intellectual capacity. Our language has nothing to do with that, as you're all well aware. So we want to make sure that there's complexity and challenge in our project, that there is collaboration, of course. That's the key, right? That respectful collaboration, laying the groundwork for that. We already know how to do that. We talked about that today. And you may have other great ideas for that as well. And then, is the project authentic? If it's authentic, it doesn't matter what your home language is, where you came from. We all have the same human problems. So that's going to resonate with your learners. So is it authentic? Then how do we manage the project? Right? Our collaborative norms, starting with those norms, are key. That's key to good project management, and there are resources in the Thrively platform to support this as well. And then we want to have some kind of public product. All right, and we'll show you how that happens in Thrively as well. You're going to get all of these slides, so I definitely don't expect you to remember all of this, but we talked about complexity and challenge, right? Present a problem or a question or challenge that requires complex thought. We don't want to shortchange our English learners in any way. All right, then is it authentic? Double check that. Is it collaborative? Is it authentic? Are these ideas that matter? How do we make sure that there's a public product so that we can share it, whether that, we're going to share that virtually, probably even with our families, or maybe even our neighborhoods, our communities. And a kind of collaboration is required. How do we create the conditions for that? And I'll show you how you do that in the platform. And manage it and reflect. You know that as educators, you know better than any of us, right? That if we're not reflecting, we're not learning and growing. So there have to be multiple opportunities for reflection. And I'll show you where that happens in Thrively. All right, we're going to go, I'm going to take you straight into the platform, but you're going to get this video on Thrively projects just to reinforce your understanding of how to access our projects. We're going to take a look at a couple of projects that ignite student curiosity. Every single project, show to everyone in every project in Thrively does. And I will show you in a minute how we're going to start. We'll browse and start a project, how our students work in a project, what that relationship is between projects and the digital portfolio, which is that piece where they engage and display and share their project with the outside. And project artifacts we'll look at. You guys will learn how to customize a project, and you'll have all of these slides, you guys, to help you all along the way. So don't worry that you're not seeing all of these right now. I'm kind of flying through them, but this is really more for you as you build this project between now and the 14th. All right, so Thrively projects. Here's what they look like. So I go to Thrively projects. We're going to look at Sweetwater Authority in just a minute. But if I go to browse existing projects, you can just scroll through here And you can see incredible projects that already exist in the platform. Now, you can take these right off the shelf because they were designed by really bright educators just like you to be engaging and fun. And you can also create your own, or you can modify a project. So in this case, I'm going to show you how to assign and how to modify a project in Thrively. So this one is Sweetwater Authority. And why I'm sharing this one with you is that this was a project done in South San Diego County, and it was around a real challenge. That real challenge was that residents in the community were concerned about the quality of their water. So the Sweetwater Authority, we interviewed the general manager. She stated what the problem was, and every single student, this can resonate with everyone. It doesn't matter the language. And she wanted to get communications out to the families and the community about the quality of the water, and also about conserving resources, that precious resource of water. So imagine now, instead of language, students acquiring language instead of that being a barrier, now it's an asset. Now, if there are 47, 48 home languages spoken in your school, now we have communications going out in all of those languages. It's such an empowering thing to do. And this is something I want you to think about between now and the 14th. How can you take a Thrively project and increase its equity by equity by adding that opportunity for students to utilize their home language to share something with their communities? So how projects work in Thrively is once they're assigned to certain groups of students, let me show you, actually I want to show you what it looks like from the student end, because it's a lot more, it's really fun to look at it from here. So let's go back here. So here's Alondra. This is her dashboard. Remember how beautiful the dashboards are in Thrively for kids. The user experience is seamless. It's easy, it's beautiful, it's uplifting. So here's Alondra. Alondra goes to her projects. And here's her Sweetwater project. She's working with a team of 4. She's working with Callie and Nathan and Russell. And you'll see that as they are engaging with the project, and they are looking at the resources, just like you saw in the teacher resource. They're looking at these resources and they're engaging here with one another. Look at the images that they're producing as well. So our students who are acquiring the language can utilize images to support their expression of what their understanding is. But look, they can also, so they can upload media. If you look here at how they post, they can take a photograph of something right now in real time. They can upload media, as these students did, as Callie did here. They can record audio and they can record video. So if they're still struggling, why not have them record a video, right? So I'm going to go ahead and record a video of myself. I'm talking about water and what I think about water. So I'm posting that here. I may be recording audio or text as well. And as Nathan, Russell, and team are working together, right, they can communicate with one another, right, leaving one another a personal note. You're monitoring that on your end, by the way, but look at all of the things that they can do here. So they're going to define, discover, ideate, create, and engage. And this last piece, this engagement piece, is where we're going to ask them to really create a presentation for the community. All the artifacts that this team created are available to the entire team. So it doesn't matter who brought that in. If they're in a team, they followed their group norms, they can say, oh, I really like this one. So what is this artifact and how did it add to the project? It just,
Jane, your
yes.
screen is frozen. I'm sorry.
Oh.
All we're seeing is record your video.
Oh, okay. All right, so I've been in there. All righty. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, sorry guys. Every time I go into an incognito window and for some reason now I am not able to display. So what I was showing you is how students post their ideas, and you can see it here too because the teacher posts the same way. So our students can post their content, either in, they can add media, they can post using audio, right? They can record audio, they can record video, and so can you as the teacher, as you support each group in the completion of their project. So as you are all completing your projects between now and the 14th, go ahead and browse these existing projects. But I do want to share with you a couple of things. One, you don't have to start from scratch. So take something that we already have and increase the equity by allowing students to utilize both their strengths and their home language to respond to the project. So how you do that is you go to add activity, and you would go ahead and just add a title in the home language of your students, right? Add the title here, introduce the text, add a link that's appropriate to the activity, and start to just practice with this a little bit. Everyone, I'm not expecting you to do this for every single activity in the project, but start to work with this. And as we meet with our fellow CTEA members next time, they're going to show you what they did to increase equity by making the project available in 2 languages. So you can certainly do that too, again, by going to activities or going to each activity and modifying it, or you can add a new activity here. And you will have all the resources sent to you to support you along the way. You can also create a brand new project if you wish, right? So you're either, for your homework, you're either utilizing current projects, or you are modifying them, or creating a brand new project. All right, I'm going to stop for questions, and my apologies for my new computer and not being able to show my incognito window. All right, let me stop here and see what questions this group has for me.
I think we were kind of taking care of them as we went along. So we might not have any additional questions.
All right, team. So just so we're clear, you will be getting the full slide deck, which will take you step by step, and do your best to create something, even if it's small, even if you make a small change, just a small modification to an existing project to increase the equity of that project. And then we're going to hear from an exciting group of educators from South San Diego, from the National School District, and we're going to see the project that they've created for their learners.
Now, Jane, where did you say they could actually get the slide deck, or how is that going to be available?
Yeah, so I'm going to send this to Anita, to you. And as you send out the video to folks, you can include the deck.
As we have, okay, we'll have it posted then. Okay,
yeah.
So we can actually do that. And also, I just wanted to remind everybody that's still here, we will have the follow-up. That's going to be on January the 14th, and that will be the follow-up, the increasing equity for English language learners, part 2. So if you guys are interested, please, feel free to join us and come back. We'd love to see you all. And let's see, do we have? Thank you, Jane. You did a wonderful job.
Well, thank you. And I want to thank all of you for your flexibility and grace in letting me make that mistake twice, not showing my screen. But thank you, Anita, for calling my attention to it. And please reach out to me, Jane at Thrively, if you need any support with your project between now and then and the 14th.
And the slide deck will not be emailed to you. It will actually be posted with the actual video. So we'll try to post it up there just so that everyone knows that. Okay, so I want to make sure we clarify that. Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you so much, Anita, for the opportunity. Thank you, teachers, for everything you do every day for your students and for our families and communities. And it's just very uplifting to be in this room with you. Thank you very much.